I'm Scott Stevens, owner and operator of the website weatherwars.info, a former television weatherman, now researching and studying electromagnetic fields in weather and weather modification. It's an amazing field, and one that has not had the attention brought to it that it truly deserves, since the atmosphere is the one feature that all of us on this planet share. We all breathe the same air, and we're all subject to the same kind of weather. What I'm curious about is how weather modification and global warming are linked. Are they one and the same? Has global warming been created as a cover for active weather modification that we now see going on in the skies? In this documentary, we'll meet the inventors of these technologies, of the acoustic waves, of the scalar waves, of the HAARP system. We've got the last ever television interview with Bernard Eastland, the inventor of the HAARP system before he passed in December of '07. We will look at contrails or chemtrails and how they play into this massive game that we see going on over our heads. How weather disasters, be they flooding in the nation's midsection, drought in Australia, ongoing drought in eastern and northeastern Africa, how all of these things can be or are related directly to ongoing weather modification. We'll teach you what to look for in the skies to see when the clouds are being accentuated or being suppressed, bringing rainfall or discouraging the development of rainfall as a storm passes through your area. So we'll explore these and basically give you our inside knowledge of what's going on, how it's being done, and what this holds for the future of humanity. I'm Scott Stevens. This is a story you're not going to want to miss. Keep looking up.
Again, the term geoengineering, aka chemtrails, that are the layman's term for what we see happening in the skies, but this is weather modification on a global scale. In fact, these programs are so large and so all-encompassing that all other weather modification programs that go on a smaller regional basis are they're negated by the scope and scale of the global geoengineering programs. And these programs involve a number of aspects. You have the saturation of the atmosphere with various chemical and metal particulates. And there appear to be various purposes and objectives with this saturation. In conjunction with the saturation, which ionizes the atmosphere, it makes the atmosphere more conductive, we have the HAARP facilities, High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. These are ionosphere heaters. Many have heard of the HAARP facilities. There's not just one or two or three. We believe there's at least 18 around the globe, possibly with 3 more being built in Antarctica right now. And once the atmosphere is saturated with these particulates, and then you add the ionosphere heaters, the entire weather system globally is virtually being thwarted. There is no natural weather at this point, and we really don't know what sort of climate conditions we would have necessarily if these programs were brought to a halt, and they desperately need to be brought to a halt, because the saturation of the atmosphere is thwarting the hydrological cycle. It's totally disrupting the rain cycle. Again, we have the artificially nucleated snowstorms, which I just mentioned. You can't go from 100 degrees to snow in one day without a whole lot of help. This includes jet stream manipulation with the HAARP facilities, and we are not guessing at this. We have monitoring sources for this signal, and we can see where the signal is most intense, and that's what steers the jet stream. So then you add artificial ice nucleation, which is a chemical nucleation process. They can turn what should have been rain into snow and drop the temperatures of these storm systems by this artificial chemical nucleation. This isn't sci-fi, this is hard science fact. The weather disseminating agencies are trying desperately, their task, and they're all owned at the very top, it appears, by the Rothschilds and or other parts of the global elite complex. Rothschilds in particular are ownership of Weather Channel, Weather Central, Weather Underground. And it was imperative that they own these agencies, otherwise there would be great discrepancy in trying to explain away these events.
It's no coincidence that the United States began building its own mysterious array of antennas in February 1992. They are located in Gakona, Alaska. The project is called HAARP.
HAARP is the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, originally a joint effort of the Air Force and Navy in cooperation with a number of academic institutions.
It is today the world's largest radio broadcasting station, but it's not designed to broadcast for human ears. It uses unique patented ability to focus the energy coming out of the antenna field and injects that energy into a spot at the very top of the atmosphere in a region called the ionosphere.
HAARP is comprised of 180 antennas, approximately 72 feet tall, linked together to function as one giant steerable antenna. Steerable because it can aim millions of watts of ELF waves into one tiny patch of the atmosphere.
The amount of energy we're talking about here is 3.6 million watts. To give you an idea of what that is, the largest legal AM radio station in North America is 50,000 watts. HAARP is 72,000 50,000 watt radio stations injecting their entire output into a spot that's about 12 miles across by about 2.5 miles deep by about 90 miles up.
This is where HAARP is pointing. It's an area located roughly 300 miles from Anchorage. The U.S. military says HAARP is merely being used to study the physical and electrical properties and behavior of the ionosphere for both civilian and defense purposes. But another theory is surfaced. The intense energy being beamed into the sky by HAARP is actually heating up the atmosphere, causing weather changes.
HAARP is being used for weather modification. The military's own record proves it. They've admitted it within their own documents, and yet they still deny it to the public.
Dr. Brooks Agnew has researched ELF wave technology for the past 30 years and is convinced HAARP's effect on the ionosphere does alter the weather.
HAARP couldn't affect the jet stream directly, but indirectly it could, because if you push the ionosphere out into space, then the stratosphere just under the ionosphere has to move to fill in that gap. When it moves, it could pull the jet stream with it, thus rerouting it hundreds of miles, changing the way water moves through our atmosphere.
Dr. Agnew has devised a demonstration to show how HAARP could manipulate the atmosphere.
So what we've done is we've got a cloud generator up here. It's an ultrasonic nebulizer. It's going to create real water particles, just like you would find in a cloud. What we're seeing now is we're actually filling this chamber with microscopic water particles. You can see that it's almost completely filled with water vapor. It's beginning to condense a little bit on the sides, just so that you can see the detail. We've got a nice dense fog, just like you were sitting inside a cloud at 50,000 feet.
At the bottom of the cloud chamber, Dr. Agnew has constructed an ELF wave transmitter, a miniature version of HAARP.
We're only using 100 watts. It's perfectly safe.
When Dr. Agnew turns on the ELF wave transmitter and begins shooting ELF waves into the simulated cloud, the cloud begins to move up to the top of the chamber, taking the moisture with it.
If you get down low enough, you can actually see a clear layer above the antenna. It is actually pushing these water particles up, and that's exactly how HAARP works. What we've done is we've not only pushed the cloud off of the HAARP antenna, but as you can see, our cloud is almost completely gone inside. HAARP does exactly the same thing. It ionizes the particles, pushes them out into space.
HAARP is one of several ELF wave transmitters located all over the globe. The United States owns and operates 3 of them, one in Gakona, Alaska, another in Fairbanks, Alaska, and one in Arecibo, Puerto Rico. Russia has one in Vasilursky near Nizhny Novgorod, and the European Union has one near Tromsø in Norway. Working in tandem, these transmitters could potentially alter the weather anywhere in the world, changing the jet stream's course entirely, triggering massive rainstorms or droughts. Even hurricane steering would be possible by heating up the atmosphere and building up high-pressure domes that could deflect or change the course of hurricanes. The U.S. government is firm in its position that HAARP is just an atmospheric research facility. But is it more than coincidence that since going online, some experts have reported strange weather anomalies, including massive floods, hurricanes, and earthquakes? HAARP went online in 1994, and construction continued until 2007. There are reportedly a total of 5 known ionospheric heaters, including HAARP, in the world today. There are possibly 20 other ionospheric heaters in existence all over the world. There is no conclusive proof that any of them are being used as weather weapons, though they do have the ability to manipulate the ionosphere. And that brings us to something else. December 2001. Scientists at NASA's Ames Research Center in Palo Alto, California make a discovery. In studying more than 100 earthquakes with magnitudes of 5.0 or greater, they find that almost all of them are preceded by electrical disturbances in the ionosphere. Could there be a connection to HAARP or a facility like it?
To say that HAARP can artificially excite the ionosphere in such a way to cause an earthquake, well, it alarms me.
Gander Garbi of Tunisia captures a strange circular formation of clouds.
Third phase of moon. Third phase of moon.
And don't forget, contact Third Phase of Moon if you've captured anything incredible. Submit it to us via Skype or Facebook. Like cousins, we're not alone. Keep your eyes on the skies. We'll see you again next time.
Hi, I'm Scott Stevens, owner and operator of the website weatherwars.info, a former television weatherman, now researching and studying electromagnetic fields in weather and weather modification. It's an amazing field, and one that has not had the attention brought to it that it truly deserves, since the atmosphere is the one feature that all of us on this planet share. We all breathe the same air, and we're all subject to disasters, be they flooding in the nation's midsection, drought in Australia, ongoing drought in eastern and northeastern Africa. How all of these things can be or are related directly to ongoing weather modification. We'll teach you what to look for in the skies to see when the clouds are being accentuated or being suppressed, bringing rainfall or discouraging the development of rainfall as a storm passes. The inventors of these technologies, of the acoustic waves, of the scalar waves, of the HAARP system. We've got the last ever television interview with Bernard Eastland, the inventor of the HAARP system before he passed in December of '07. We will look at contrails or chemtrails and how they play into this massive game that we see going on over our heads. Subject to the same kind of weather. What I'm curious about is how weather modification and global warming are linked. Are they one and the same? Has global warming been created as a cover for active weather modification that we now see going on in the skies? In this documentary, we'll meet